Well, as we mentioned earlier, the prominent Palestinian activist Ahed Tamimi was among the 30 prisoners released on Wednesday. The 22-year-old rose to prominence back in 2017 when she slapped an Israeli soldier who raided her village in the occupied West Bank. At the time, she was sentenced to 8 months in prison. Tamimi was arrested again earlier this month on suspicion of inciting violence. Let's speak now to Dena Takruri. She is from Al Jazeera Plus. She's written a book with Ahed Tamimi called They Called Me a Lioness, a Palestinian Girl's Fight for Freedom. So obviously you know her quite well. You've spent quite a bit of time with her. Tell us a little bit about how she came to such prominence.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Tell us a bit about why she came to such prominence.
Well, Ahed Tamimi grew up in a prominent Palestinian family that was known for nonviolent activism. She grew up in the West Bank village of Nebi Saleh, which is right across the street from an illegal Israeli settlement that for years has been illegally confiscating the village's land and its natural resources. So in response, in about 2009, her father and members of the village decided to wage a nonviolent protest movement where they would just simply try to march down to their natural spring that was confiscated by the settlers. And in response, every single week, they were met by brutal force by the Israeli military. We're talking tear gas, opening fire with rubber-coated steel bullets, skunk water, and even live ammunition. From a very young age, from her childhood, she witnessed her uncle killed before her very eyes, her cousin killed before her very eyes, her parents shot, her parents repeatedly arrested, she herself getting injured, and then eventually it culminated into that iconic moment in 2017 at 16 years old when she was arrested for the first time.
So at that time, she spent 8 months in prison, I believe. Do we know much about her experience in prison?
During the first time, yes, it's very well documented in the book that we wrote together in her memoir. The conditions in prison were difficult then, and if they were bad then, they're extremely unbearable now, as has been documented even by Amnesty International, calling it degrading and torture in the conditions. When she was imprisoned as a 16-year-old, she spent 8 months there, as you mentioned. She was able to, in defiance of the Israeli, jail keepers, was able to complete her secondary education, complete her high school behind bars, and really there was able to develop more of a political consciousness. She took a class on international law and international humanitarian law and was more clearly able to understand the very many violations that she and the Palestinian people living under occupation have lived through because of Israel.
And Dena, Tamimi was arrested again earlier this month. Can you tell us a bit more about the circumstances that she was arrested under?
She was arrested on November 6th in a nighttime raid, as it always is, a nighttime raid.
So just to be clear, this is after the war, after the October 7th events.
Correct. 10 days prior to her arrest, in fact, her father, Bassem Tamimi, was arrested while he was on his way, trying to make his way to Jordan. He is still being kept in Ofer prison under administrative detention, meaning no charge or trial. So she already had her father taken away from her. And she was part of this giant wave, this bloody crackdown that we have seen in the occupied West Bank of Israel, arresting thousands of Palestinians after October 7th. It was under this context that Ahed was arrested. She was beaten during her arrest, as her lawyer has confirmed. She was beaten after she was being transferred to prison, and she was being kept in Damon prison, which is in Israel, which again is a violation of international law to transfer Palestinians from the occupied territory outside of the occupied territory. Like the many harrowing testimonies that we're hearing from Palestinians who are being released from the prisons, she suffered abuse. She was never charged. They were never able to bring charges against her. So last Sunday, the military court moved to try to keep her under administrative detention, which means she could have remained incarcerated without charge or without trial.
Okay. Dena, many thanks for your time. Dena Takruri from AJ Plus talking to us there about the prominent Palestinian activist Ahed Tamimi, who was among the 30 prisoners released on Wednesday night.